What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Sam here to break down the tight ends for Week 1 Draftkings Sunday main slate. I'm really excited we got NFL back. If you haven't already checked out my quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs videos, make sure to do that. And if you're new to this channel, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notification bell so you'll know when all my stuff comes out, leave a comment. All those things really help me out. I've had a lot of growth throughout NASCAR and NBA season. Now NFL is here, and I want to just continue that growth. Want to continue to keep it up. So I'm really excited about where this is going to lead. If you want to get more of my content, you can subscribe to my Patreon for only $10 a month. You're going to get an article for every single week. You're going to get an article for all the positions, along with my rankings for every single player or every single position as well. And then you're also going to get a cash tier article and rankings along with GPP guys you want to target, the top stacks. Then injury notes. My injury notes come out every Saturday when you pretty much know most of the injury reports. So basically affects all the injuries. That's not just like running back. Oh, play the backup. No, that's like offensive line, defensive line, every single position on the field pretty much, except for kickers. I don't really care about those, but everything else, it affects everything in DFS. So be sure to go check that out. It's a lot of good content for only $10 a month. I think that's really all I gotta say. Let's get into the tight end video. We're gonna start with Dawson Knox for Buffalo. I'm really not too interested in him. I just wanted to point him out because I think Dawson Knox is going to be a good tight end. I just don't think this is really it. I want to see them actually utilize him in the offense before I want to go to him. He isn't a very good matchup against the Jets. The two starting Jets linebackers are Neville Hewitt and Avery Williamson. Josh Allen, obviously the quarterback. Both Dawson Knox and Josh Allen have positive matchups against those linebackers. Then we go to the offensive line versus defensive line matchup. It is a positive matchup for Dawson Knox, for Dawson Knox on the offensive line, and just overall it's a positive matchup. But I just don't know if he's going to get utilized yet. So I think he's an okay maybe to just take a shot in a tournament in a GPP, but probably still not someone I really want to get too much. I'm next going to go to Mike Gesicki, who's had a lot of hype this offseason at $4,500 against New England. This is kind of a tough matchup for Gesicki though. The linebackers for Patriots are Brandon Copeland, Jawan Bentley, and Terrence Brooks. Ryan Fitzpatrick, the starting quarterback. When we look at Mike Gesicki, does grade out positively against those linebackers, and Ryan Fitzpatrick does as well. For the offensive line versus defensive line, we see a negative matchup though for the offensive line of Miami. It does result in a positive matchup for Gesicki, but most of the tight ends are going to be positive matchups. There's only a few that aren't, and he's one of the lower ones that lower positive matchups. I, again, just don't know how much Mike Gesicki is actually going to be involved in the offense. I think he should probably get 5 or 6 targets, and I think that's fine at 4,500. They are going to be trailing and playing from behind. I think it is worth to note that he is not listed as a starter, but I don't think that really matters. I think they want the run blocker to be in there. He's still going to get a ton of spots. He's just going to be really playing as a slot receiver, really, is what Mike Gesicki is going to be doing this year. I think he's an okay option to go to. I just don't really think this is the spot to really get a ton of Mike Gesicki, but I think he's someone to look at in tournaments for sure. And I guess if you want to play him in cash, he's okay because he's cheap, but I still want to see what he's more used in the offense. Chris Herndon, my favorite fantasy tight end this year, not this week though. He's only $3,300, but I just don't really play a lot of players against the Bills. The Bills are just a defense that I just don't play players against, and I'm going to continue to go there. We got A.J. Klein, Tremaine Edmonds, and Matt Milano are the linebackers. We do see Chris Herndon barely grade out positively against those guys, and same with Sam Darnold, barely grades out positively against them, but it's really not really a good spot. This just isn't a good spot for him. They are going to be trailing. I just don't like to play really anybody against the Bills, and tight ends didn't do anything against the Bills last year, so I'm going to stick with that's probably going to happen, and we'll get Chris Herndon cheap next week too because he won't do anything this week. So we're going to get a Chris Herndon week where he's going to be a super value, and I'm just going to love him, but this is not not going to be week 1. Next, we're going to go to Mark Andrews, who is one of the best tight ends in the league now at $6,000 against Cleveland. The linebacking core for the Cleveland Browns consists of B.J. Goodson, Malcolm Smith, and Sion Takitaki. Lamar Jackson is the starting quarterback. Both Andrews and Lamar grade out positively against them. When we go to offensive line versus defensive line, it's a slightly negative matchup for the defensive line, or for the offensive line of Baltimore against defensive line. I'm not too worried about Lamar Jackson, really. They are going to be playing from ahead by a lot, so that kind of the game script may not be exactly what I want to get to Mark Andrews, but he is going to be he's either going to be Lamar's number 1 or number 2 target. We'll see how much of a breakout year Marquise Brown has, but I think Andrews is definitely someone who is definitely on the radar. Definitely want to use him in GPPs. Not someone I go to in cash, but he's going to get the volume. He's talented. He's in a good spot, so I do like Mark Andrews a good bit. Austin Hooper, this is another one where I just don't know what his volume is going to be, and I think $5,100 is too expensive for Austin Hooper. Like, to pay for a $5,100 tight end who's probably going to be the number 3 receiver in that offense, and probably by a lot. Like, I think Odell and Jarvis Landry get the majority of that work, and then Kareem Hunt's also a passing threat. So, like, it's just not like he's in a good spot. And then you're playing against Baltimore, and they were very, very good against linebackers last year with Patrick Queen, Malik Harrison, and Anthony Levine. They are going to be playing from behind, but I just don't think that this is really the spot to get Austin Hooper in this week. I just think he's too expensive. I mean, I don't really see him getting utilized at $5,100 worth. To me, like, there's a few tight ends in that same 5,000 price range that I think could be utilized way more than him and have more upside and in better matchups. So Austin Hooper probably a stay away for me this week. Jack Doyle against the Colts, $3,600. On the Colts going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a tight end I do like going to at $3,600 this week. Someone I think is a good cash tight end. For a few reasons. Well, let's see. The matchup one is very good. You have Miles Jack, Joe Schobert, and Quincy Williams are the starting linebackers. Philip Rivers, the quarterback. Both Jack Doyle and Philip Rivers grade positively against those guys. When we go to the offensive line versus defensive line, it's a very, very positive matchup for the offensive line. I mean, we know Jacksonville's bad. And then the main thing I think I like about this is Philip Rivers is the quarterback. We know how much Philip Rivers has utilized tight ends over the years. I mean, Hunter Henry, Antonio Gates obviously for a long period of time. And then Hunter Henry recently has been a tight end that's very utilized in offense. Philip Rivers just loves throwing a tight end. So now we have Jack Doyle here in Indianapolis. The only one thing I will say is they are huge favorites, so I think this is going to turn into a run script game. But at $3,600, if he gets you 5 targets and just gets you a few catches for like 50, 60 yards, he's going to pay off the salary. Then he's got the touchdown upside in the red zone. So I think Jack Doyle is someone to target in cash. Probably not going to go during GBPs because I don't think the ceiling's super high, but definitely an interesting target in cash is Jack Doyle. I think Jack Doyle is going to be probably a $4,000 tight end this year, so we're getting him still a little bit cheaper. Darren Waller, the cover boy of this video, $5,900. I just like, in every single video I keep saying I just love attacking this game, and I'm going to continue to love attacking it. The 2 starting linebackers for Carolina are Shaq Thompson and Tahir Whitehead. Neither of them are really good in coverage, and we know Darren Waller is just a beast. Both huge positive matchups for Derek Carr and Darren Waller. We go to offensive line versus defensive line. It is a nice positive matchup for the offensive line, and Darren Waller ends up coming out as I think the second best matchup on the entire day for me. I mean, it's game script wise, it's gonna be a fast paced game. This is gonna be two very bad defenses, a lot of scoring, and Darren Waller is probably gonna be the number 1 target on this offense all year. Honestly, he's just a big target down the middle. Very, very good. Hopefully we'll get some more red zone usage this year. I think that'll happen this year. Although Jason Witten's there, but I just don't think. I mean, I can't even imagine saying, "Oh, we're gonna throw the ball at Jason Witten instead of Darren Waller in the red zone." So I think this is going to be a good year for Darren Waller, and I really like this matchup. He's probably my favorite tight end to play. For GBPs, I don't think I go there in cash because usually I just like to go cheaper on tight end in cash. But for GBPs, I absolutely love Darren Waller this week. He's definitely like a very good stack target for Derek Carr, so I do like going there. Next, we have Hunter Henry for the LA Chargers. I'm really just not going to get there. I just don't think Henry's going to be that involved in the offense. I think Tyrod Taylor's going to utilize Keenan Allen a lot. I think he's going to utilize Austin Eckler a lot. And $5,300 Hunter Henry just scares me. Matchup's pretty good though. Sean Williams, Jermaine Pratt, Josh Bynes are the starting linebackers. You have a positive matchup for Hunter Henry as well as Tyrod Taylor. But when we go look at the offensive line versus defensive line, this isn't a bad matchup for that defensive line. Not terrible, but it's pretty bad. Hunter Henry grades out as a positive matchup, but not anything that great. They're going to be playing from ahead. It's probably going to be a slow-paced game. Tyrod Taylor is always as far as mobile as a quarterback he's always a slow-paced quarterback. So this team's going to be slow-paced this year. So Hunter Henry, probably not someone I want to get too much of, if any. So not one of my favorite plays on the slate. Next we got Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. Goddard's interesting because I think he's going to have a lot. I mean, we all know Zach Ertz is probably the number 1 target guy that's in week 1, probably all year, honestly, for Philly. But Dallas Goedert is going to be involved in this offense. It's just how involved in this offense. He's someone that I'm like a little bit weary of taking on. Maybe take 1 or 2 shots in GPPs with Dallas Goedert, and I don't hate it too much, but I still just don't think that he's somewhere I really want to get too much of. But Zach Ertz, $5,800 is just way too cheap for Zach Ertz. Like, he's going against the Redskins, who have John Bostic Dusty Thomas Davis and Cole Holcomb at linebacker. Really positive matchup for Ertz. When we go look at the offensive line versus defensive line, it's a very positive matchup. And then this becomes one of the best matchups on the slate for me. Actually, Dallas Goedert's matchup ends up grading out better, but Zach Ertz I know is going to get more usage in the passing game. I think that this is a play that I absolutely love in GBPs. If you're stacking Carson Wentz, I think this is the guy to stack him with, along with Deshaun Jackson. But the one thing I will say again is that this game figures Philly to blow them out, and I mean that's probably gonna happen. So it could end up being a run scripted game, and maybe Zach Ertz it just isn't the way to go. But regardless, I do think he's a good GPP option. Would not play him in cash. T.J. Hockenson at $4,200 is someone I actually do like this year. I think T.J. Hockenson. So historically, tight ends don't do really well in year one, but year two and year three we see breakouts from them. I mean, last year, Darren Waller was late, but Mark Andrews was a breakout in year two. Gronkowski years ago was. George Kittle was 2 years ago. Kelsey was. So like all these guys that are breakouts, and there's 2 tight ends this year that were first round picks that I feel like should break out this year, and really 3 if you include Gesicki, who was a second round pick. I think Hockenson, Noah Fant, and Mike Gesicki are all like breakout tight end candidates. And T.J. Hockenson was like a top 10 pick last year, so he is someone who's supposed to be very, very good. He's only $4,200. They are playing Chicago, but I don't think this defense is really all that. Roquan Smith and Danny Trevathan are starting linebackers. They're not really great coverage guys. They're great pass rushers and run defenders, but coverage-wise, they're not that great. It's a positive matchup for Hockenson, very positive matchup for Matt Stafford. When we go look at the offense line versus defense lines, this is very, very slightly negative matchup for the offense line, but nothing I'm too worried about. This is a positive matchup for T.J. Hockenson. He's just only $4,200, and I think he's going to be more involved in the offense this year. So I think he's someone that's interesting to take shots on in tournaments. Probably wouldn't want to go there in cash, but definitely in tournaments going to take some shots on him, and definitely a viable stack option with Matt Stafford. If you want to stack like Matt Stafford, Galladay, and Hockenson, great stack in my opinion, which just hint, that's going to be in the top stack video later. Or then Matt Stafford, Marvin Jones, Hockenson, or just Matt Stafford, Hockenson. Like last year, week 1, T.J. Hockenson just went off. I remember that. He had like 30-point game, and that was it for the year, but he went absolutely off. So he's a good player. I think he's going to be a very good tight end. I think it's going to be a very important part of this offense this year. So I do like going to some T.J. Hockenson. Kyle Rudolph, Irv Smith Jr., this one's a little bit interesting to me because I don't really know how involved in the offense they're going to be. I think Irv Smith is the better tight end personally. This guy's a stud out of Alabama, going to be a very, very productive tight end. It's just, can he get past Kyle Rudolph in the depth chart this year? I think he should. I think he's better than Kyle Rudolph. Kyle Rudolph used to be really good, but he's kind of getting up there in age. Irv Smith Jr. is an absolute stud. So I just don't really know. I mean, their matchups are positive, not that positive, but these are guys that maybe to take shots in tournaments. I kind of put them in a video just to talk about, I think they're going to be at least utilized in the offense, and maybe to just take a random dart throw in a tournament if you're playing a ton of lineups is worth it with Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith Jr., but not ridiculously too high on them. I will say the thing about Kyle Rudolph, though, is last year when Adam Thielen was out, Kyle Rudolph was very utilized in the offense, and now there's no Stephon Diggs in Minnesota anymore, and I don't think Justin Jefferson's going to get this massive usage to start the season. So Kyle Rudolph or Irv Smith, but probably more than likely Kyle Rudolph, is going to be getting a ton of usage early on in the season. So I think that this could be a spot where he maybe excels at. So maybe taking a dart throw or 2 on Kyle Rudolph is going to be good, and we all know how much Kirk Cousins loves him in the red zone. So I think that's an interesting play. Hayden Hurst at $4,300, probably going to be one of the more popular tight ends on this slate. Going against Seattle, KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner, Jordan Brooks. As great of a linebacker as Bobby Wagner is, he's not really that good in coverage, hasn't been the last few years. It grades out as a positive match for Hayden Hurst and a positive match for Matt Ryan. When we go look at the offensive line versus defense line, it is a positive matchup for the offensive line as well. Hayden Hurst has a good matchup. This is a game where there's probably going to be a lot of scoring. I think Hayden Hurst is a very good cash play. I think he's a very good option to stack with Matt Ryan. He's just going to get a lot of usage. He's going to be in that Austin Hooper role from last year, and Austin Hooper had a lot of usage in the red zone, had a lot of usage up the middle, so Hayden Hurst is going to be in that position, and Hayden Hurst, in my opinion, is just a better tight end, better player than Austin Hooper, more athletic, better after the catch. So in a very high-scoring game that looks to be a shootout, looks to be a lot of passing, I think Hayden Hurst is a very, very good value, someone I definitely want to go after in tournaments, stacking with Matt Ryan, and I think he's a good cash play as well. Ian Thomas, if I just knew how he was going to be used in the offense, would make a difference for me, but I just don't. I think he's going to be the number 5 target on his team. I think Ian Thomas, I think he's a very good player. I think he's going to get some usage in this offense this year, but DJ Moore is going to be the number 1 receiver, but then you got Curtis Samuel, Robbie Anderson, and Christian McCaffrey are all going to be utilized in passing game. I feel like more than Ian Thomas will. If he falls in the end zone, he's going to be a good play, but I wouldn't touch him in GPPs. I don't think he has the upside. In cash, I think he's okay just because of how cheap he is, and he'll probably get some targets, and he's in a high-scoring game and a good offense. But for tournaments, I probably don't really want to go to Ian Thomas because I just don't think the upside's there. Like like the cheap plays in football are usually guys that just have a good floor, like that you use in cash. A lot of times I'm not going to try to go after him in tournaments. Like Ian Thomas this week isn't someone I want to go after in tournaments. Now let's say Curtis Samuel gets hurt, misses a game or two, or Robbie Anderson, and Curtis Samuel's starting outside. Then maybe Ian Thomas probably takes up the target options, and then that's someone I want to attack. But right now, I just don't think that's the way I want to go. Jared Cook's too expensive, $5,500. He's going to drop in usage this year from Emmanuel Sanders being added to the team, and he has a really bad matchup against Devin White. And Devin White's actually was terrible last year, but he's a high draft pick a year ago. He's probably improved this year. And then Levante David's a top 3 linebacker in the NFL right now. So very tough matchup for Jared Cook. When it comes to offensive line versus defensive line, it does grade out positively for him. It's a slightly positive matchup, but still not someone I really want to attack all too much. Gronkowski at $4,900. I just don't think, again, another guy I want to see his usage before I want to play him on DraftKings, because I don't think that he's going to be like playing a ton of snaps. I think he's going to be playing like 30-40% of snaps and probably a lot in the red zone, because like they still have O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate, and I don't think, and we know from Bruce Arians' offenses in the past, like they haven't utilized tight ends at all. Now maybe in the red zone when you all of a sudden get this big red zone target and it's Tom Brady's like best friend, or old reliable player, that Gronkowski could be used a lot in the red zone, but I don't think he's just going to be like someone getting peppered with targets every week. So I think he's an okay guy to just maybe take a shot on, but I don't like his price. If he was a little bit cheaper, I think that'd be interesting, but not someone I really want to go to. Dan Arnold at $3,500. I just don't like playing anyone against San Francisco, especially tight ends. But I think this guy's going to actually be someone who's going to be used in the offense a lot this year. I think he's going to be a value on some weeks on DraftKings, but not this week just because of the matchup. I don't really want to go there. That linebacker core, Fred Warner, Quan Alexander, and Trey Greenlaw is scary. Fred Warner is currently on the COVID list, but I think he might be able to play on Sunday. We'll see if he gets cleared in time. But even if Fred Warner's not there, that's still a scary linebacker core to have to go against. George Kittle, $7,200. I love George Kittle this week. If I'm playing any stacks, Jimmy Garoppolo, which I don't think I'm going to this week, George Kittle is going to be the guy I want to stack with him. We all know how bad Arizona is against tight ends. They were the worst team last year in the league. We would basically just play him every single week in cash. We'd even play him in tournaments sometimes. So George Kittle probably going to have a big day. Number 1 target in the offense. They're supposed to be playing from ahead, but I think this game could be a little closer than everyone expects it to be. George Kittle, I just think he's gonna have a big day. Definitely someone I want to use in tournaments because a lot of people don't pay up for tight ends a lot of times in tournaments. So definitely George Kittle, someone I want to get to. And then we'll close out with Greg Olsen, who's in this offense. I just don't think, Russell Wilson tight ends. He used Will Dissly a good bit last year before he got hurt, but then Jacob Hollister wasn't really that involved in the offense. So I think he's okay at $4,000 against Atlanta in a spot where he's going to be in a very pass-heavy offense. Or a very pass-heavy game script. So I think he's okay. He could be used in the red zone. I forgot to mention George Kittle, number 1 matchup on the day. Anyway, but Greg Olsen I think is a solid option. I just think there's other guys in that 4,000 range I really want to get to before I get to Greg Olsen. So I think that's really all I got to say on tight ends today. Not as many tight ends as other positions, obviously, so we get a little bit shorter videos, which is nice for me. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. Make sure to check out the other videos I have. I got a top stacks video coming out. I'm going to make pretty much right after this. I'll probably go write the article for Patreon for this now, and then I'll do that video. So be sure to be on the lookout for that as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you guys have some fun watching football. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments or follow me on Twitter. I'll put that in the description too. Thanks, guys.